Hi, my name is Rod Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Khleif, and I am thrilled that you're here. And I am doubly thrilled with the gentleman that I'm interviewing today. And I got to tell you, this is such a treat for me today because this guy is truly an icon in our business. And especially for people my age. Some of you younger ones may not know who he is yet, but you will. So his name is Robert Allen. Now, again, if you don't already know who he is, let me tell you, he's written millions of copies of books, sold millions of copies of books, best-selling books. I went to my library and found this one, Multiple Streams of Income, which was a international bestseller. He's written Nothing Down, The 1 Minute Millionaire. He sold, like I said, millions of copies. His books have been on the New York Times bestseller list for 100 weeks. Now, his latest book's with his son, Aaron. It's titled The 4 Maps of Happy, Successful People. He's spoken on stage and, with people like Oprah and Tony Robbins and Richard Branson and Trump and, has traveled all over the world speaking to groups. And I was blessed to run into him at an event in Key West that I went to because there were several people there that I didn't know Robert was going to be there that were iconic people that I learned from over the years and got to keynote on stage with them. And Robert was there, and they were saying how they learned this business through Robert. So it's just a real treat to have you on the show, my friend. Welcome.
Hey, thank you, Rod. I was so impressed with your speech there. You crushed it.
Thank you.
US, and I was very, very impressed with your failure story, to tell you the truth, because I've had a bunch of failure stories too. And when you really hear somebody's, devastating failure story and you realize they're still around, it just realizes how important that is to just keep going. We all stumble, we all fail. You just keep moving forward and you come out on the other side, right?
That's it. Listen, why don't you do a better job of your bio and your story than I did? Because I didn't do it any justice whatsoever. I could have kept reading for 30 minutes with your accolades. So if you could just maybe, for people, assume that someone doesn't know who you are. I do have, quite a few younger listeners as well. Anybody who's been in the real estate business over 10 years knows who you are for sure. But if you could.
They do. Yeah. So let me talk to your audience specifically to who's listening. You want to achieve financial freedom. Yeah. You're using real estate as the vehicle to get you there. You are excited about the opportunities that are presented to you here especially in the United States. You've hooked on to Rod because he's a leader. He's a visionary. He tells you how to get where you want to go. I know exactly what that's like because back when I got started, I linked up to people like Rod and I listened. I went to seminar to seminar to seminar. I spent tens of thousands of dollars, educating myself. It started for me when I graduated from college with my MBA. Don't let that impress you. I graduated in the 1/3 of my class that made the top 2/3 possible. I was actually in the 1/10 of my class that made the top 90% possible. And I graduated in a middle of a recession and nobody was hiring. And I thought, well, why do I really want to go get a job and retire later and then invest in real estate and become a millionaire? Don't I just really want to become a millionaire now? Why do I want to get a job? So I was single and I'd read a book on real estate investing. I read Think and Grow Rich, and you should put that on your calendar. In fact, I'll give that one to them, Rod. You figure out how way to do it. I'll give them the audio version of Think and Grow Rich that I recorded in my voice. It's happy to give it to you.
Wow.
It's a book that changed my life. And then I decided, well, I'm just going to go invest in real estate. So long story short, took me 4 or 5 years. I'm a millionaire now. I write the book Nothing Down, How to Buy Real Estate with Little or No Money Down. It becomes a #1 New York Times bestseller, killer book, followed up with Creating Wealth, also #1 New York Times bestseller, Multiple Streams of Income, The 1 Minute Millionaire. But what got me started was, and maybe a little more famous, is we ran an ad to do my seminars. And I said, send me to any city, take away my wallet, give me a $100 bill, and in 72 hours, I'll buy an excellent piece of real estate using none of my own money. And we were running that ad in the Los Angeles Times, full page ad, and the editor saw it, and he says, what is this guy? We got to take him down. Let's call him, we'll challenge him, we'll push him on that. So they they called me and they said, we challenge you, put your money where your mouth is.
I remember seeing that in the news where you go to any city, drop me in a city, penniless and broke, half naked, and I can go buy a house with none of my own money, right?
So the LA Times met me at the LAX airport at the Marriott Hotel. And we got on a plane. He said, where are we going? We're going to San Francisco. Could you pick a worse city to do a challenge like that? And we show up in the morning, and he takes away my wallet and gives me $20 bills, $20 bills. And we have to go into that city. It took me 24 hours to find my first property. In the next 24 hours, I bought 6 more. I was exhausted at the end of, we didn't even finish the third day. I was just beat. We bought 7 properties in 57 hours, and I gave the reporter $20 back in change. What I tried to prove from that, and so you beginners here, you're just getting started. You're going to have, there's some lies you got to figure out. First lie is it takes money to make money.
Right.
You're going to hear that 1,000 times in your lifetime, and that's total BS, because it doesn't take money. It takes your resourcefulness to figure out where the money is. It doesn't have to be your money. So when I bought those properties in San Francisco, I used lots of different techniques, or 50 nothing down techniques. But I found people who were willing to sell me the property with absolutely zero down. That's extremely rare. But I found, about 2 properties, sight unseen, that I bought in Sacramento. It was just 90 miles away, and I bought them and held them for a bunch of years and made some money on it. So the banker wants cash flow, credit, and collateral. Those are the 4 C's that the banker wants. And this is, and they're trying to get you to believe that this is what you need in order for you to succeed. And this is total BS, because they took away all of those things from me. My cash, no cash, $100. Cash flow, didn't have a job. Collateral, no assets. Credit, no, I didn't even have a credit card.
Wow.
What I was trying to show is that the C's were inside me, and wealth starts inside you.
Yeah.
And you got to realize that. You have to have commitment. That's a C word. You have to have clarity. This is what I want. This is when I want it. This is why I want it. This is who I want it for. This, these are 7 clarity questions. I knew when I showed up in San Francisco, I had 72 hours. I had to buy 1 property. I had to buy it with 0 money. I was very clear on what I had to do, or my reputation would be destroyed. So there was a consequence to that deadline. So there's all kinds of things that happen as a result of it. But I had my 4 C's, and my clarity, my confidence. My confidence is a C word. Chutzpah is a C word. There are a lot of C words that go with it. Character. I had to ask somebody to give me their property, not knowing who I was, with 0, nothing. That takes character, meaning they had to know that when they heard my voice, they knew I would not take advantage of them. They knew they were first, that it was win-win. If it was win-lose, then it was always win-lose is always lose-lose. Eventually, it's lose-lose.
Yep.
I know and they had to sense that. So I know you're having trouble getting started. Maybe your credit isn't perfect. Your cash flow is not as good as you could be. You have a big dream, and that's where you need to start. And most people have these fears that hold them back, and they're petrified of what people are going to think of them. And the realtor, you come to a realtor, and the realtor tells you you're crazy, you're out of mind. How do you think you can buy a property with nothing down? And the key is to make your dreams more real than your fears. Your dreams, you have to make them clear. This is what I want. And you have to get into that, and you imagine what it's like and feel what it feels like to own 20, 30 properties and have the kind of cash flow that Rod's teaching you how to earn. Just feel what that feels like, and make sure that your fear doesn't overwhelm your dreams. Because the dreams have to be bigger, they have to be stronger, they have to be more real than your fears. So that's where you start.
Oh, that is fantastic. And I love the fact that you turned the C stuff on its head. Everybody's been told you've got to have cash flow, credit, and collateral to do real estate. But the fact of it is, the bottom line, the number one thing you need is confidence, in my opinion. And that confidence comes from clarity, like you said. And, I like to tell people it starts with competence. Okay. You have to understand the business, right?
Great C word, competence.
Competence. It starts with competence. And then once you have that competence, it equates to confidence. And then it equates to your ability to influence congruently. You need congruence as well. There's a lot of awesome C words here that really are more appropriate. And guys, I will tell you the beautiful thing about this multifamily business, this commercial multifamily business that we're in, is that yes, they take money. You do have to have money to buy a property, but it doesn't have to be your own money. There's so much money out there looking for deals right now that the key is to find the deals, frankly, and to build relationships with people with money, because that's how I've done it. And that's how all my students do it. And, thousands my students, my warriors are now own over 45,000 units. And I've only been teaching 3.5 years. And I'd say the bulk of those units were done with little of their own money, if none. So just ties right into what you said, Robert. So Robert, before we started recording, I'm sorry, go ahead.
When you're a beginner, you don't have competence.
Right.
So you're just failing your way into it.
Right.
So, you get competent at the most important thing. And Rod just told it what it was. It's not the money. It's not the financial resources. It's finding the deals. Mm-hmm. And if you become a bird dog, you become a finder for other people with money. That's how I got started. I didn't have the money, but I was part of a group that met every 2 weeks, and they had the money. There was doctors and accountants and people with money, and I was the bird dog. And so you want to get competent at one good thing. That's the thing.
Yep. That's really good. You don't have to focus on your strengths as well. So many people will tell you to build your weaknesses. I'm telling you, double down on your strengths, hire a partner or align for your weaknesses. So Robert, before we started recording, I asked you what you enjoyed talking about, because I know you could talk about real estate ad nauseum, like I can. But the first thing out of your voice that you said was mindset, which of course is really the biggest piece of this whole thing. So,
go ahead, keep talking.
Okay, well, so he stood up and threw me off. Those of you listening, he walked away, and I'm like, wait a minute, we're not done talking yet. Anyway, so he went to get a book off your shelf. It looks like. Yeah. Anyway, so that's such a critical part. I think the most critical part. I think 80 to 90% of a person's success in anything is just that, their mindset and their psychology. So what would you say to that?
When I got started, since I had the mindset, I don't know. I was a Mormon missionary in Tahiti, where you have to go and spread the gospel, and there's lots of rejection to it. So after a while, you just get a real thick skin, and it just doesn't bother you anymore. So I kind of had a foundational. So my mindset was pretty strong. So when I went out there and started buying real estate, I didn't get upset when people said you can't do it and things of that nature. So I just assumed that everybody thought that way, So when I wrote my book, Nothing Down, it was techniques of how you buy real estate with little or no money down, multiple streams of income, which is the one you showed. This is the more recent copy of it.
Oh yeah, yours is nicer. You got a better cover than I do. Okay.
This one it's got 10 ways of making residual incomes, money while you sleep, and it's technique oriented. There's charts and graphs and just all kinds of left brain stuff, system stuff. And I just thought, well, if you give a person the system, this is how you do it. What's the matter with you? Get busy. Frankly, I just finally realized that you put two people in a class, you teach them the same exact systems, and one person will go out and crush it. The other person will go out and get crushed because their mindset isn't right. And I finally realized they need three skills. You need system skills. That's like, how do you drive the car? Where's the ignition? Where do I turn? Where's the turn signal? What are the ways? And when it comes to real estate, you need three things: finding, funding, and farming. Farming is like, how do you get money out of this deal? It's a farm. Real estate is a farm. You're growing a farm. So finding how do you find good deals? There's at least 9 ways. Funding, there's at least 50 ways. Farming, there's all kinds of ways of making money from it. And that, that's where my books are filled with that kind of stuff. But then I realized, there was people skills. I had to, when I went to San Francisco, I had to persuade these people to give me their property with no credibility, at all. I mean, there were people skills that I had learned over a period of time. And then finally, there was a mindset skill. I was freaked out that first day in San Francisco, and I got hundreds of rejections that day, and there was 0 success that day. What kept me going, frankly? I had to take a deep breath and get myself centered, and there's all kinds of mindset stuff. And I began to realize that if you don't teach all 3 of those things, then really you're not going to get the successes you want. So I started teaching mindset stuff. And we do our seminars, in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, we would start a seminar off with a board break. We would say, what are the fears you got? Let's get rid of those now. We're not even going to talk about real estate. Let's get you centered here. Blow away the fears that are holding you back. We spent an entire day, just nothing, no real estate, nothing. So mindset is really critical. It's really extremely important. And you need to have a way of building that,
Yeah. It's funny that you said that board break. I know that Tony went to that when he had to go virtual. At Tony Robbins events, you walk on fire at the first event. But when COVID happened, he went to board breaking. He mailed a board and a mail to everybody, and they're breaking boards. And in my events, the first thing we do is a goal setting workshop. I suppose I should do something to push through fear, like you did and Tony does. But the bottom line is that's foundational to all of this, which is I know why my students have been so successful is because. If it was just the technical skills, there'd be a bunch of wealthy librarians and college professors. It's the do. You have to take action. You got to push through fear. You got to get uncomfortable, and you really got to know what it is you want. And I love the fact that you brought up Think and Grow Rich because, the one big thing in there is burning desire. You've got to have that burning desire. You got to want it.
Yeah,
right?
You do.
Yeah.
You do. And a lot of people, when they come to the real estate game, they think, well, I'll try this out. Let's check this out. And they go a little bit deep into it. And they find, it's a little harder than I thought. So they go and find some other way of making money, and they never go deep. You have to have a burning desire. When I got started, I had a burning desire to buy real estate. I just lived and breathed it. And on a scale of 1 to 10, you as a listener, as a viewer here, what's your level of intensity, of desire? Do you really want this? Or you're just interested in this? You're just curious about this. If you really want it, you're going to go all in. You're going to get coaches to help you. You're going to set deadlines. You're going to live and breathe it. It's just what it takes.
Yeah. No, and I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting when you and I met at that event, I get invited to events all the time and I turn most of them down. But the premise of this entire event was based around student success. So guys, this was all thought leaders in the real estate space that do real estate coaching and masterminds and events like I do and like Robert's done for decades. And again, some of the people that I mentored under decades ago were there, which was really cool to share the stage with. But that's why I went. And the way Robert was just describing the importance of this, I know Robert counsels other people in this business, people like myself that teach others. And that's how you coined it. If you're going to teach others, you've got to teach them the mindset. And I just wanted to flash back to that because that made me realize that, you're a teacher's teacher, you're a mentor's mentor. And that's what makes this such a treat for me. To have you on the show with me, my friend.
How do you keep yourself going, Rod? Especially when you had some challenges there?
Yeah, great question.
What kept you putting one foot in front of the other?
Great question.
Do it.
Yeah, no, great question. I appreciate you asking. I lost $50 million, as you heard me talk about that, and I've had other big failures as well. And it's a couple of things. One, you don't connect to the incident. because yes, you may fail, but you are not a failure. Okay. So you don't identify with the collapse of a vehicle. It is not your identity. And it's very easy for people to wrap their identity around the vehicle that they're using. And that's when people kill themselves, frankly. There are people that killed themselves in 2008 crash, and certainly in the Great Depression as well. And so it's if you make your vehicle your identity, you're in big trouble. So that's number one. Number two, I knew what I was capable of. I knew that anything I gave my total energy and focus to would flourish. And I knew that. But don't get me wrong. I whined and hid under a rock for a while and had to get my butt kicked. And luckily I was actually in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership back in 2008. And so I was around people that were kicking butt when everything was going south, people that were thriving and saying, get off your butt, stop whining, go make that happen. And so I was around people that wouldn't tolerate that negativity but I will tell you, it's also the thing that I had to be really careful of was not making it my story. Hey, I lost $50 million, and it can become your story, and it can be a disempowering story, which that was. Now I use it to empower now as to what's possible. Right. But for a few months, I will tell you, I think it became my story as well. So I had to push through that. But then the big thing, Robert, was I just realigned with what I wanted and why I wanted it. And that's why I spend so much time on goals and mindset, because, it's so easy to focus on the negative, and whatever you focus on is going to get bigger. So I could have continued to focus on loss, or I could focus on what I wanted. And of course I got it back much, much faster than I did the first time. But I mean, don't get me wrong. It sucked. It was no fun, but the whole, what doesn't kill you adage comes into play. But no, it's really, it's managing your focus. It's redirecting to what you want. And I find myself even today, sometimes I'll be tired or a little beat up. And in fact, this was yesterday. I actually went and got a COVID test. I thought I had COVID yesterday, and I don't, thank God, because we're doing 1,000 backpacks this Saturday to school kids, and I really didn't want to miss that. My foundation is, but yesterday I was feeling down in the dumps, and, we've got a deal we're working, and just a lot of hiccups with that. And, so it's something you got to manage every single day. Right, Robert? I mean,
they need to hear that, Rod. They need to hear that yesterday was not a good day for you.
Right.
Because you got to realize that's just part of the game, the game we're playing. The question you said right earlier, the most important question you ask yourself every day is, what do I really want?
Yeah.
What do I really, really want? Because you're going to be distracted with 1,000 things. Your phone's going to ring, texts all over the place, emails, everybody's going to advertisements, and all you have to ask yourself, where do I want to be? What do I really, really, really want? Because that means I have to say no to almost everything else.
Yeah.
That's really hard. That's why Steve Jobs says that was his biggest skill, saying no. Warren Buffett, my biggest skill, saying no. And so you have to say yes to your dream and no to everything else. Yeah. And that's a mindset. It's a skill. It's hard to do.
Right.
So
I want to add something to what you just said about what you really want. And guys, when you ask yourself that question, and you should probably print that out and put it on the wall. What do I really want?
Yeah, really?
Dig deep on it, because okay, I want a car. Well, why do you want that car? Okay, well, because and you drill down, and you'll end up in one of two places. One is you just want love, and the other you just want to be happy. But you've got to do it yourself, and you've got to work your way there. Do you agree, Robert?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And so that's a really important question to ask yourself. By the way, how can people reach you? I know you've got some free resources. You mentioned that audio. Was it Think and Grow Rich? Is that the right book, or was it something else? How to Win Friends. Think and Grow Rich.
And the PDF of that, a digital book of it.
Nice.
I'll get it to him, but I'll send it to you and you figure it out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, guys, I'll get it to you if you ping me on any social channel. I'll make sure you get it. And it's robertallen.com, is it not?
That's it. robertallen.allen, robertallen.com.
Yeah.
When you go there, there's a place to opt in. You've heard those things before. And,
sure. There, I know you've got some stuff there you give free, and then you can get on his email list and get quality content from him.
Or maybe another way we could do it, Rod, is that I'll say everybody within this, this next month, whoever goes to robertallen.com, when you go in there and opt in, I'll send you the Think and Grow Rich book and the audio.
Love it.
That's probably the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah. And guys, that's something you should listen to in the car. And Robert's got a great voice. So what a great way to take that in. That I love it. I mean, that's honestly a book you should read or listen to a couple times a year minimum. And I've given away, I'm not exaggerating, Robert. I've given away probably close to 4,000 copies because everyone at my live events gets that book. I used to. I'll probably continue to do it as well. But that's one of the things that I give because it's so important. So,
Think and Grow Rich there's 13 principles. Desire. See, that's what do you want?
Right.
Faith that's willing to take action even though the evidence doesn't look very good around you. That's what faith is. Auto suggestion. What do you say to yourself? Specialized knowledge, imagination, decision, organized planning, persistence, the power of the mastermind, the mystery of sex transmutation, the brain, the subconscious mind, the sixth sense. Those are the 13 principles.
Good for you. Wow. I can't even rattle them off like that. That's awesome.
I can do it backwards because I want to know those things. I want those things to be in my soul, And that's why we get a lot done because we have the right kind of mindset for it.
You guys definitely get the book, like Specialized Knowledge, like you just talked about. You can't be a generalist. The Power of the Mastermind. I host the largest multifamily mastermind on the planet now, and because I know the power of it, and I've been in scores of masterminds over the years. I'd love
to come to your mastermind.
I'd love that. Okay, we'll make that happen for sure.
Make it happen. I want to come.
All right. Sounds good. Well, listen, Robert, it is such a treat to have you on. I'm so grateful for your valuable time and really enjoyed this conversation. And I will definitely have you come to my mastermind. That's awesome. But guys, if you haven't gotten or read some of his books, just go out there and get them. Trust me, I've had every single one. I was sick yesterday, so I didn't hunt through. I've got thousands of books, and I found this one, in my hand, Multiple Streams of Income. But I've got them all. I know I've got every single one of his. But I've got so many bookshelves over there. I just didn't feel like keeping looking. But anyway, thanks for coming on the show, my friends. Great to see you.
Hey, everybody. Love you.
All right. Thanks, bud.
Bye.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345 and we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out. That's mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345.